Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Glad you guys can make it today. We have a fun show scheduled for today. We're going to look at comic characters and compare them to prominent political figures and actors and actresses and stuff like that. Now, this is going to be an interactive show today. There are no right or wrong answers, and I would like to hear your feedback as to people that you think resemble comic characters. And we'll get into some of the dynamics of that as the show today progresses. But I had a special request from Eric to discuss a little bit about the topic of gaslighting. Now, I first learned about gaslighting probably about 8 years ago. I ran into a situation where I was gaslighted, and it was not a fun experience. Usually on the other end of gaslighting is a narcissist of some type, and they can pull you into lots and lots of drama for the sole purpose of disrupting your life, ruining your mojo, and the list of things goes on and on forever. Now, what is the purpose of gaslighting? Well, it's spiritual warfare. It's spiritual warfare to basically wear you out. You know, a biblical passage comes to mind, the wearing out of the saints. And I believe that that is what gaslighting is. It's wearing out the saints. And so what we have is basically an orchestrated psychological operation that any one of us can come under. Sometimes it's demonic attack. Other times it's, actual forces at work, like people, groups of people. And there's a lot of this going on YouTube, and this is why you have to be very, very careful, because you can literally become disenfranchised from the process of learning all this stuff simply because you're being gaslighted. Here's one example. You put an emoji, beautiful emoji with hearts, and YouTube screens that out. That's a form of gaslighting. I have to go in and approve it to disenfranchise you from sharing love with each other. Now, why would they screen that out? Someone putting hearts and prayers? It's gaslighting. Now, I know that the term is overused. I know the term narcissism is overused quite a bit, but this is a real thing, and it's become part of our society. Many times, gaslighting can even occur from someone that seems like they're on your side. For instance, Trump basically gaslighted the right, didn't he? He basically induced people and whipped them up into a frenzy and basically ordered them to show up to an event that he didn't even show up to. And then when everybody got arrested, he didn't help them out, did he? That was a honey trap gaslighting event. And the way he talks, he kind of dumbs himself down to try to relate to this group of people that he feels that he needs to get votes from. If you look at his older interviews from the 1980s and 90s, he is as sharp as a whip, well-spoken, every single word, well-spoken, very intelligent. And then now he's dumbing himself down so that he can gaslight the people that vote for him. He also whips people up by making promises that he can't keep. That's a form of gaslighting as well. So where did the term gaslighting come from? And I know you guys are anxious to get into the comic book characters, but this is important to talk about because we just got gaslighted on this channel. I'm not going to go into specifics about what happened because I don't like to give these people any airtime, because that's what they bank on. They bank on that you're going to give them airtime and that their channel is going to grow through controversy. So we're not going to do that. But basically, gaslighting it's one of those things where you can think someone's on your side. You can think that you've made amends, but in the back of their mind, there is no such thing going on. They're basically trying to create controversy and chaos, and out of the chaos, they feel as though they can get a leg up. And that's where gaslighting comes in. So we'll hop off of that and get into the fun part of today's show, which is the comic book character matrix. Now, this is going to sound silly at first, because many of you have heard me compare prominent actors. Let me refresh this page here. I don't know why this isn't doing this. Oh, here we go. Prominent actors and actresses that are in power. You've heard me compare them to comic book characters, haven't you? From time to time. And when I sat and actually thought about it for a little bit, I realized that most of these political actors are channeling the spirit of some of these comic book characters. Now, this is an intriguing aspect to the matrix and the controllers and how they work that I was not expecting to find, because it sounds silly, doesn't it? It sounds silly. Now, again, I want to repeat, this is going to be an interactive show. There are no right or wrong answers here. And as we get into this discussion, I want to hear your feedback in the chat about which prominent actors and politicians are channeling which comic book characters. Now, before we get into this, what could all this be about? Because there has to be a logical explanation as to why they would do that. And what I believe is happening is that these ancient demons who want to be worshipped, they've set up for themselves idols so that they can be admired for their specific powers and skills. And what better way to make an idol than to craft a character that children and adults alike admire, which would be the comic universes. And these same demonic entities are the ones possessing our politicians and actors. Now, let's start with one of my favorites, Fauci. Now, we've mentioned this before, that Fauci appears to be the penguin. Now, why would I say this? Well, the penguin has a poison umbrella. And of course, this poison umbrella is stored at sub-zero temperatures. What else is a poisonous tip that's stored at sub-zero temperatures? Look, his umbrella here even has a spiral on it, which is a portal, which we told you that the tip, which is called the ferrule, the tip of the umbrella is called the ferrule. The poisonous tip was bringing the people who got poked with the tip in through a portal of possession. Spirals are portals. So they tell you right here, look at the green water, the dark pool, the penguins, the pineal penguins. What are you talking about, Casey? Well, did you know that they harvest the pineal gland out of penguins to study their circadian rhythms? Did you know that this happened? And did you know that this was the federal government doing the study? And I think it was attached to a specific politician. I can't remember which one it was, but they were harvesting the pineal gland out of these penguins and from Antarctica, which is a whole nother rabbit hole, right? But think of this. The pineal gland is your lamp of your body. And it can either be full of darkness or full of light, which Jesus described in the New Testament. The enemy wants to fill your lamp with darkness, not the light of the Holy Spirit. So, Fauci has to be the penguin. He just has to be. Now, what else do we have here? Here's an image here of one of the penguins depictions. And look at this guy. The white gloves and the umbrella, which is also a metaphor for a syringe. The syringes have ferrules too, don't they? Look at this guy's face. Looks a lot like Fauci, doesn't he? In the background, you have the mailbox. We know what the mailbox represents. The post and lintel. Now, here's the penguin and his list of umbrellas. His umbrella weapons. Guns, knockout gas, acid cannons, razor rib, giant death trap umbrella, and down here, poison dart gun umbrella. So there you go. Now, What else do we have here? Now we're going to get into who the Batman is. Now this one was pretty cut and dry from the beginning. We've been saying this probably for about a few years. We've realized that Trump is Batman. Why? Well, The Dark Knight was filmed in Trump Tower, wasn't it? In the 66th floor penthouse. One of the scenes was filmed there. And who is Batman? Well, he's a billionaire using tech that he got from his, I believe he inherited all this tech, didn't he? From his father or his uncle. It was left to him when both of his parents were killed. Some kind of tragic accident. And you've heard Batman tell the story. Now, what else is Batman? Well, of course, the roof of Trump Tower looks like either the bat plane or the bat boomerang. And I believe it was done that way specifically. And it was done that way specifically to form a pair with this building called the IBM building, which is the Superman building. Obviously, it's Superman's chest insignia with the serpent in the chest. So, there's something to this, isn't there? Now, there's a clip out there somewhere on YouTube. There's a boy in a plane, in Trump's plane, and he asks Trump, "Are you Batman?" And Trump confirms and says, "Yes, I am Batman." Now, I'm not going to play that clip, but you could easily look it up. Boy asks Trump if he's Batman. Now, any one of these things doesn't mean anything, but when you put it all together, it forms a picture, doesn't it? Now, Trump is the other half of the Joker as well. Because remember, Batman really doesn't have a sense of humor. So the Joker is his evil other half. Now we know this because they actually talk about this. There's a clip here that I'm going to show you in a second. How does Batman complete the Joker? It says right here that both of them are one and the same. Let's play this clip here, because the Joker says, "You complete me. I can't exist without you." Let's play this here.
You go back to ripping off mob dealers? No. You complete.
You complete me.
No, you complete me.
So Batman's a little confused, but we all know that Batman has a dark side. In fact, one of the franchise episodes, I guess you call it, had Batman struggling with his dark side, on the edge of madness. Always on the edge of madness, right? He wants to really hurt people. He struggles to control his anger. So, Batman forms a Gemini pair with the Joker. Joker is funny. Batman is dry. No sense of humor. You put the two together and you get Trump, the Gemini pair. Now, of course, Trump was born as a Gemini. So this duality is innate in his personality. The two personas. The as above, so below. The Joker lives inside of Batman, and the Batman lives inside of the Joker. It's the Jekyll and Hyde, the two sides of the same coin. Now, there are other characters in the Batman universe. Of course, there's Two-Face. We all remember who Two-Face is. He's the Janus character, Two Faces. Again, another aspect of Trump, as well as Bane. Bane for the people. Remember Trump's speech that was almost exactly like Bane's speech? And Bane was wearing the ventilator. And that's what Trump pushed during the pandemic to make the pharmaceutical companies rich. And we ended up finding out that these ventilators, let's just say this. When people get put on them, the chances of them coming off are not very high. Let's put it that way. Now, the Joker used balloons to poison Gotham City. Remember that? I'm going to play a clip of this video after we look at this particular Batman duality with the Joker, or the duality of Batman. Look at this. They even show the black and the white. Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight. It was a precursor of things to come. Literally telling you what was going to happen before it happened. Now, we're going to play this clip here of a video that I did. Gosh, when was this? Several years ago, in which we had discovered that there was something going on in one of the Batman films. Let's watch this here. Let's get back to this. Many of you asked me if I would break down this montage that I did years ago on the Batman film from 1989. It was the one with Jack Nicholson. And the film opened on Boris Johnson's birthday. You know, the guy that is supposed to be Trump's counterpart in the UK. He looks like a mini-me of Trump, has the crazy hair. Well, that's when this film opened. And there's a lot more synchronicities to this film as it relates to modern times. And when I did this montage, as you're going to see here, years ago, I had no idea the relevance that it'd have today. I had no idea. So I re-uploaded the montage like last week in preparation for this show. There's not a lot of commentary in this montage, which is why I'm going to go over it again here on the show and give some commentary to explain exactly what's going on with this Batman 1989 film. So, the Joker in the deck of cards, which by the way is 88 millimeters wide, that is the standard size of a deck of cards. The Joker is considered the trump card. Now, we don't call it the trump card because, you know, the deck of cards is twice removed from where that originated, which is the tarot cards. That's where cards actually originated, if you want to know the truth. And so there are trump cards in the tarot deck. And so that was, sent down over time through these iterations of the deck of cards, and now we have the modern deck of cards, 88 millimeters wide, with 2 trump cards in it, 2 jokers. All right, just so you know the history of playing cards and where they came from. So think about that. There are 2 jokers in any standard deck of playing cards. There's your Gemini pair again. And you'll remember in the film I Am Legend, which seems to dovetail exactly into what we're dealing with right now, Will Smith uses the Joker as a bookmark in his almanac that he had. And he had the almanac open to the winter solstice, which is Apollo's birthday. And that just so happened to be December 25th. Well, December 26th was the actual official beginning of the current CV spamdemic in China. When it started in China, they were able to name it. That's when they first named the virus. And they named it, and on that day, there was an eclipse. I call it the Apollo eclipse. The eclipse formed a smiley face, just like the one you see on this balloon in Batman. It formed a smiley face underneath China. Went kind of through Malaysia and the Philippines. This was the path of the eclipse. Went right underneath China and formed a smiley face across the earth. We called this the Apollo eclipse. Now, literally everything that we've covered in the past few months about how eclipses also seem to precede spamdemic and sacrifice, like the CV outbreak, literally everything that we've discovered has come to pass. And it all appears in Batman, as the Joker tries to poison Gotham with a balloon clown. So this clown is in a parade, right?
And he's going through the streets of Gotham. And of course, Batman saves the day. But he only does that after flying his Batplane over the moon like a lunar eclipse.
Now, I'm going to pause it there because down there in the corner, you see this clock. And there's one of these clocks right in front of Trump Tower. And that's next to a store called the Time Store. It's about time travel. Let's keep watching.
Now, there's an eclipse coming up on June 21st on the summer solstice. I call it another Apollo eclipse. Now, I got to look at the number of days between December 26th, that other eclipse that started the CV, and the June 21st eclipse, because there may be a connection there in the number of days between those two. But back in 2017, when we first covered the Batman 1989 film in this video here, we were looking at another eclipse in which NASA launched these 50 bacteria-laden balloons right along the eclipse path. And they admitted that they were doing a study on how ultraviolet radiation would affect these bacteria-laden balloons. Because, why? Because the corona of the sun would only allow this electromagnetic radiation to affect this. And there was
So hopefully at this point you're seeing the connection between the corona of the sun that only happens during an eclipse and Apollo, the god of the sun, and coronavirus. It's all connected. And it was kicked off by these set of eclipses. The first one happened in December with the first known case of COVID during that winter eclipse, which is Apollo's ice element or aspect. And then the summer solstice of Apollo, which is the fire aspect of Apollo, fire and ice, which is what we saw in Back to the Future. When the DeLorean traveled through, it was in a blaze of fire, but then when it got to the other side, it formed ice, didn't it? Let's keep listening.
There's something about that they could only test this during the eclipse. We covered all this. Many of you that follow the channel will remember everything that I'm telling you. So, let's keep going with this. Let's play some of this.
The eclipse entered the U.S. in the 33rd state and exited at the 33rd parallel.
Exited on the 33rd parallel. It entered Oregon, which is the 33rd state, and exited the 33rd parallel. I think it was near Georgia or South Carolina. So this is a single 3-minute segment from the 1989 film Batman. Now, just so you know, CC is 33, because C is the third letter of the alphabet, right? But it's also the number 200 in Roman numerals. So when you see CC in Roman numerals, it means 200. I believe that references the fallen ones, the 200 fallen ones that came down at Mount Hermon and swore an oath in which they were mutually imprecated to sin. And there you see the 200. And there you saw the balloon releasing the gas, right? Now, there's something weird about this, because when they showed us the map of all of the cases across America, it looked like a bunch of red balloons. And we were talking about 99 red balloons back then. Let's keep watching. Money, everybody's money in the streets, right? The failure of our economy, and we're seeing that right now.
And here's the 2022 update, right? Because what did Trump do? He bankrupted America. Now, it befuddles me that people don't see the connection to the $1 trillion that was given to corporations, of which some of us got a little, check, a COVID check. But the majority of the money went to the corporations and bankrupted the small businesses. And people cannot connect that to the current inflation. The inflation started with the $1 trillion. Now, yes, Biden gave out money too, but Trump started it. He bankrupted America. People don't even get it. They don't make the connection. Now, of course, both Biden and Trump are of the enemy. They're both, but people are stuck in the right-left paradigm. They don't even see what's happening to them. So the Joker handing out all this money, dropping money to induce people out into the streets so that they can poison them with the gas is happened already. Masks, masks, masks. It's as if this was made for right now. So Batman grabs the balloons in the parade because they're full of this poison gas, and he releases them up into the atmosphere. So the NASA balloon release was a ritual to match up with this Batman thing, and it was the precursor to COVID, basically. It was a ritual to introduce COVID, and what it represented was the worldwide administration of the coming vaccine, and they would throw money out to everybody to make them be okay with it, is what we can say. This is shocking. And this right here is Trump. He's the Joker. He's also Batman. They both work together. And I argue that this is the Trump character. The Trump card. The Joker. There's your 200 fallen ones.
Why didn't somebody tell me that he had one of those things?
Now, Trump was born on a lunar eclipse. Batman, The Dark Knight Rises, was filmed at Trump Tower, right there in the 66th floor penthouse where the Apollo painting sits. There they filmed Batman, The Dark Knight Rises. Who is the Dark Knight? Well, there's two sides to Trump. There's the Joker and there's the Batman. I believe they're one and the same, two sides of the same coin. $200 of CC. Hopefully that's pretty clear to you what that is, because CC is 200 in Roman numerals, but it's also the third letter of the alphabet, so it's also 33. Now, there are connections between Trump and 33. His 66th floor penthouse has 33,000 square feet, and I believe Mar-a-Lago has a 33,000 square foot as well.
Gotham City Cathedral, transportation, 2.
Now, this is the Vesica Pisces, and what you're going to notice, a lot of churches have this kind of hidden into their symbolism, right? It's this high arching arch with a point at the top, and what that really represents is the center of the Vesica Pisces, the two circles squeezed together. We've done so much work in explaining to you what that actually means. Those two circles squeezed in together represents, for the fallen ones, the 200. It represents the merging of the two seeds. The book of Daniel says they
shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. This is what it says in the King James Version. How do you explain that passage? It means there are two bloodlines. Now, for everything that the dark side does, there's also a good version. So when you think about the Vesica Pisces, the two seeds squished together, at the center is a fish, the shape of a fish. Okay?
Now, I'm going to pause myself there. Gosh, this is kind of weird on me voicing over my own content, but this stuff is relevant, and I hope you guys can see that, because we also discovered the Pan's pipes and what they mean since this video released. And that the Pan's pipes are actually syringes. Syrinx. Remember that study that we did? And basically, Artemis, the twin sister of Apollo, her muse or whatever, I can't remember what her relationship was to Syrinx, but Syrinx was turned into a swamp and reeds. And then Pan cut those reeds off and formed his panpipe. This is all ancient Roman and Greek mythology. And they admit that the word syrinx actually is the root form of the word syringe. That's where they got the word from, these hollow reeds. Now, the hollow reeds have dual meaning because they're also the shaft of an arrow, Apollo's arrow. And this is how he brings disease and he brings the cure through this arrow, through the syringe, through the syrinx. And remember, in Batman, we saw the reeds surrounding the villain that was fighting against Batman, and Batman was, Spider-Man. And Spider-Man was able to defeat him by hitting these reeds that were surrounding the villain, creating a tone which defeated him. And this is where we get into frequencies and tones and 5G and all that stuff. It's all being depicted in the comic universe. Let's keep watching here.
And that fish would represent Jesus. And he gives salvation to both seed lines if you believe in him. So he took the blood out of the equation. Why? Because before Jesus came, if you were of the dark seed line, you were condemned. And the Hebrews would hunt you down back in the day during the Exodus, because they were being hunted down, right, by the Canaanite giants. They were being hunted down, and God allowed the Hebrews to wage war on them to defend themselves and defend the future bloodline of Christ, which was the tribe of Judah, one of the 12 tribes. That had to survive so that Christ could be born. Once Christ would be born, he said that I offer salvation to Jews and Gentiles, which would be both bloodlines, if you believe in him. So do you see how the Vesica Pisces can mean two completely different things to each? To the dark side, it is the beast. It is the flesh. It is the merging of flesh with the fallen ones. And at the center, that flesh becomes the matrix opening of the woman, of the womb. The matrix opening of the womb. When you're born into this world, you're born into sin. This is why you have to be born again. You have to be reborn through Christ. So you see the juxtaposition of the two concepts. And so this opening of the woman, right? This is what you're looking at. Represents the matrix. You're born into it. And you have to escape through rebirth. You have to, through your life, you have to find Christ. You have to find him. He finds you and you find him. You meet in the middle, and then you're reborn. And I believe that if this is the requirement to pass through the narrow gate, I believe then that Christ must reveal himself to every single soul throughout their life, somehow, some way. It's like an automatic button. It has to be, because if that's a requirement, how can that be fair if he doesn't reveal himself? And I'm talking even to people who've never opened the Bible. They must have some kind of miraculous revelation throughout their life. People in the deep forests of the Amazon who've never seen a Bible. Christ may even appear to them and show them the way to the narrow gate. So here we are. There's the Vesica Pisces, of course. Again, the Joker is the devil, and this appears to him. He goes through this, right? God, doesn't this look like the wall? Doesn't this look like the red wall? Let's pull up some images of that. This is crazy. Trump's wall. Wow. I don't know, like, these things just, they just appear. They just appear to me. So here's the wall, and of course, as seasons change, the wall begins to turn red because of the rust factor. Here's an image of the wall, so you know I'm not making this up. And this looks a lot like this, does it not? Let's flip back and forth there. Wow. So there it is. So this is 1989, you guys. 1989. Let's keep going. So there's the Vesica Pisces I was talking about earlier. And mathematically, the number 153 appears, linking it directly back to Christ, who talked about casting your net to the right side of the boat to take out 153 fish. That number is in the Bible, 153 fish.
Now, what you'll notice, I don't know if I'm going to mention it here, is this center not only looks like a fish, but it looks like the ancient boats that they used. So imagine the disciple standing on the bow of this boat with a net in his hand, casting it off of the right side of the boat, forming a perfect circle, or what they like to call a pancake shape, to capture the fish. It's all here. Ancient geometry, ancient math, spoken from Jesus' lips before anybody had discovered it.
Were pulled out of the net. He was talking about the Vesica Pisces. And you'll notice that the Vesica Pisces is also mirrored letter C's, mirroring each other, because those are the 200 that came down at Herman. It's also the Coco Chanel logo. Cape Crusader C that are going to be occurring over the next couple years. Of course, 2024, the 99th day of the year, that is a mirror of 66, the 66th floor penthouse. All of this is linking together.
So here in this part, I'm basically linking the former pandemic to the current one of the time when I put this video up, 99 years apart, and the future eclipse happening on the 99th day of the year, 2024, just fast approaching. And that 2024 eclipse will enter Texas at the 33rd Congressional District and will exit at Perham, Maine, named after Maine's 33rd governor. So, the first eclipse had 33s all through it, and this eclipse, coming up in 2024, has 33s all through it. What's 33 and 33? It's 66. Apollo, the eclipse god of crowns and coronas.
The original video that I uploaded in 2017, I just want you to know that. Okay, I didn't edit it. It's the original. And here we were talking about throwing money in the streets and which is happening right now. Who was throwing money in the street? Somebody was throwing actual dollar bills into the streets. I think it was at some kind of an event or something. Somebody can remind us in the chat. Let us know when that. We were talking about eclipses coinciding with spamdemic right here in this video.
And of course, that was before it ever happened. So had people listened, they would have known what was coming.
Is what are called metonic cycles.
Oops.
Is now what we also showed you is what are called metonic cycles. And actually, the Jewish calendar is built on metonic cycles, they're called. And what the metonic cycle is, it's a 19-year cycle where, remember, CV19, 19 years ago, we had blind 11. There's a lot of stuff linked into the number 19. Well, there's also what's called the metonic cycle, 19-year cycle. And the weird thing is that both the moon and the sun follow 19-year cycles. So, in other words, every 19 years, the moon phase and date repeats exactly. In fact, an exact point in the sky. It's a duplicate moon. So every 19 years you get a duplicate moon. No greater and no less. And there is also a metonic cycle of eclipses. So we have two heavenly bodies that we are told are millions of miles apart. This is what science tells us. Yet they both follow a 19-year cycle. There's something they're not telling us. Now, I call these cycles the Apollo eclipse cycle because solar eclipses that we identified with Trump occur on the summer solstice. That's the next one. Apollo is the sun god. Here's the solar eclipse of June 21st, 2020. It's coming up. Here it is. And it's weird because this eclipse coming up in just less than 20 days is a sad face.
So now you're seeing the smile now, cry later. The smiley face eclipse was the winter solstice 2019, and it made a smiley face under China, and then the summer solstice eclipse, which was in the heat of the pandemic, formed a sad face
under China. A sad-faced smile now, cry later. Does that term maybe mean pairs of eclipses in the same exact spot, but one is with an upturned smile and one is with a sad-faced smile? Is that what this is really all about?
Now take yourself back to summer of 2020, and it was a very sad time. Locked down, children were forced to stay home. Now, I think we'll jump off of this because I don't want to get all into metonic cycles. We're here to talk about comic characters, aren't we? So let's check in with you guys, and then we're going to look at who you think Batwoman is, because that's next. Let's make sure we're connected. I've been talking and talking, double talk over here, and I hadn't even checked in with you guys. But that was very important to establish the Batman character, Batman and the Joker. It's very important to make sure that we covered that thoroughly. And I think we did. Now, who is Batwoman? Now, again, there are no right or wrong answers with this. But I'm starting to wonder if Batwoman isn't maybe Ivana or Ivanka. Here is Ivana, of course. And if she is Batwoman, then she would be Trump's, other half, or Batman's other half. Ivanka's her daughter, which could be, that as well. Now, there's another character called Julia Pennyworth. She's the daughter of Alfred, and she's a French resistance fighter, and her name is Mel. Oh, she's actually the daughter of Alfred and a French resistance fighter named Melly Marie. And Julia Pennyworth was brought in as a potential love interest for Bruce Wayne. So, Millie Marie could be Marla Maples, right? Julia Pennyworth. Here's Marla Maples, Trump's second wife. Divorced her in 1999. So, now, who is Catwoman? Well, I'm thinking Catwoman has to be Melania Trump. And the reason why I say that is because obviously she's got very pronounced cat eyes, doesn't she? Here's some images of Catwoman fighting Batman. And we all know that Melania is always giving Batman grief. Catwoman is always giving Trump grief, isn't she? She kind of scowls, seems upset. She doesn't give him any affection. Batman, but she's tied to Batman. And so they have a love interest, don't they? So, the unhappy Catwoman, who is bound to Batman because she's got a crush on him, has to be Melania. She is totally channeling the Catwoman. Let's look at some images of Melania's cat eyes. You can't make this up. Now, some people say she got surgery to make her eyes look like cat eyes. I don't know that. But the constant sniping at Trump and kind of stealing his thunder, creating fodder for the media. Of course, the left-wing media goes after this, right? They go, look at how unhappy she is with him. She doesn't really love him. She doesn't show him any affection. They love going after this because this is part of the paradigm. So that the right will get mad and say, no, you're just jealous because he's got a hot wife and because she does love him. You see, it creates this tension. Wow. Let's get into some of these other characters. Because we have Harlequin, don't we? Remember Harlequin? Well, Harlequin, let's go back here. Where did I put that one? I've got a lot of tabs up here, you guys, sorry. Harlequin was the girlfriend of the Joker, wasn't she? Harlequin. And that has to be Trump's Q army. Harlequin. Now remember, Harlequin was a psychiatrist who goes crazy, and she falls in love with the Joker. But then they break up, and she joins the Suicide Squad. But in the end, she teams up with Batman. So Harlequin is Q, most likely. And let's see here, let's go back here. I thought I had a tab pulled up for that, but I guess I don't. The New York Father revealed, Joker of New York. We did that one already. Now I'll put links to all this for you guys so you can reference this stuff. But I think it's fun to kind of pair up these actors and prominent politicians with these comic characters because they actually pair up very well, don't they? Now, who is Elon Musk? That's a very good question, right? I believe that Elon Musk is the Riddler. Now, why do I call Elon Musk the Riddler? Well, the guy's really cryptic. He's always smiling and kind of joking around. He says things that sound dumb, but in the end, he's sending some kind of riddle or a message through what he says. And a guy that makes kind of some of the dumbest comments that I've ever heard a person with that much money make, for him making such comments, he sure can move markets, can't he? Because everyone's trying to outthink Elon Musk and try to figure out what he's really saying when he says something. Here's an article here. Elon Musk's tweets are moving markets, and some investors are worried. Now, we all know that this happens when he starts talking about Bitcoin or he starts talking about buying Twitter. Mr. Smiley over here is moving markets based on what he says through riddles. He's probably the Riddler. Wow. Now, what else do we have here? Well, oh, I was going to show you this earlier. This is an ad from IBM. Remember the IBM building I showed you earlier? And this is just confirmation of what these people are up to and what they represent. The IBM building is next to the Batman building, Trump's Batman building. And that brings us to Superman. Now, who is Superman? Well, the pair of buildings, the IBM building next to Trump Tower, was designed in the shape of Superman's chess symbol, wasn't it? And let's go back to that image so you guys can see that. And below it was the Fortress of Solitude, which is an atrium made out of glass connecting these two buildings. So here's the Superman building, and below it, connecting it to Trump Tower, is an atrium, the Fortress of Solitude, below, and then if you go above, you get the Bat Cave on the 66th floor of Trump Tower at the penthouse. So the question is, who is Superman? And that brings us back to this Lotus commercial. I am Superman. Lotus IBM. Watch this and listen. And here you see the Twin Towers in the background. Watch. There's China. Of course, that's a song from REM, which Rapid Eye Movement. Now you guys are seeing what's going on. The invasion, sleep, reprogramming us through sleep. Who is the I Am? Well, it sure ain't Apollo, is it? It's Jesus, the true and only I Am, aka God. An IBM company, the Lotus, liar of the United States. Wow. Now, let's keep going with Superman and try to figure out who the Superman comic character is. Because Superman was born in the sun, wasn't he? And he's allergic to kryptonite. And I believe kryptonite, the blue-green looking substance, is probably the copper. And copper is the bottleneck for Apollo. He needs lots and lots and lots and lots of copper to complete his system of control and have world domination, doesn't he? He needs the sun for strength, doesn't he? This is the IBM Wikipedia page. And here is the IBM office in China. I'm going to go into the chat and see what you think the IBM office in China looks like. So I promised this would be interactive, didn't I? What does the IBM office in China look like? Now, China produces most of the world's solar cells. So I'm starting to think that China is Superman, the solar-based superpower. Now, China means land of the sun. Land of the rising sun. A lot of people thought only Japan was the land of the rising sun, but no, it's both. The words Japan, Nippon, Nihon all means the origin of the sun, where the sun rises, and that it is the reason why the country is often called the land of the rising sun.
To the eyes of the Chinese people, Japan is the direction where the sun rises. And of course, China and Japan are very closely linked. When you go back in history, it wasn't until recent history that they kind of divided into the two superpowers. So, China, Japan, land of the rising sun. So there is your Superman sun connection. And now it makes sense as to the Superman building being next to Trump Tower. And I believe that China secretly owns Trump, which is why his nanny is Chinese and taught all the children Mandarin, because China will rule the world. It is our future. So he's setting up his children to be part of that. Now, if you're still on the fence, you're like, you're just stretching everything, man. Come on, man. Come on, man. China acquired Lenovo IBM division on May Day, highest day of Illuminati sacrifice in 2005, May 1st. So, China owns IBM. That IBM building you're looking at is owned, partially owned by China. May 1st, highest day of Illuminati sacrifice, founding of 1776, founding of this country, founding of the Illuminati. Chinese computer maker Lenovo has completed a $1.75 billion purchase of IBM's personal computing division, creating the third largest PC maker in the world. China has to be Superman, doesn't it? Now, China provided or was the basis or the origin, we're told, of the virus that would become the serpent in the chest, the possession of humanity. Blue, green, copper has to be the kryptonite because they can't get enough of it to build the 5G, 6G prison. They're the sole world leader in solar cells as well. I looked up. And so there we have that. Now let's go back and see who you guys think, what you guys think this building looks like. The IBM building in China. I'm going to go back in the chat now. I promised that I would. And then once you guys tell me who you think that looks like, we'll get into who you think Robin is. Got to cover Robin, right? Okay, let's pull this up a little bit. Good morning, everybody. What does that building look like? Yes, crypto night, cryptocurrency. I saw that. Yes, absolutely. And crypto will be our... That's a great point. Crypto will be our kryptonite. Won't it? The blockchain chaining us to the block. So you guys saw it. I didn't have to tell you it looks like Trump's hair. It absolutely does. I like to get your take on some of this stuff so that people don't think that I'm just making stuff up and stretching things, because everybody's seeing the same thing. And it lends credibility to it. Now, let's get into who Robin is, because the left does not get a pass on this, do they? Who is Robin? Well, Robin has to be Robinetti, which is boy jivin', boy wonder. Now remember, Robin was always wanting to lead, wasn't he? In his own little way. He was super smart. He was the one always figuring out the Riddler's riddles. When Batman was clueless, Batman was kind of an airhead. The Adam West version of Batman anyway. Robin was always the one who figured out the riddles. So, Robin wanted to lead, but everybody knew that Robin wasn't strong enough to lead. He wasn't as powerful as Batman. Batman was the brawn. Robin was the brains. So, do you think it's a accident that Joe Biden's middle name is Robinetti? And so Robin finally gets to go into the White House. But once again, he's on the back burner. He's irrelevant. He's a nothing president. Now,
What else do we have? Let's get into some of these aspects of some of these other characters. Good job, you guys. So, I was going to kind of stick to the Batman universe comic characters, but there are some honorable mentions. Let's get into some of those right now. Because a lot of people already realize that Jeff Bezos looks like the person you're seeing on your screen right now, Austin Powers. The madman firing off phallic rockets into outer space. Now, the word Bezos means kisses in Spanish. And what was Austin Powers doing all the time? Dr. Evil, kissing all the girls, wasn't he? Now, he even has a droopy eye, just like Dr. Evil. And look at this. He even does the same mannerisms as he does as well. Now, can't have a show about comic characters without talking about Klaus Schwab. And there's a couple different people I think that Klaus Schwab could be. He's channeling a couple different people. Of course, he's got the bald head, but I think he's channeling Lex Luthor. Here's Lex Luthor right here with the bald head. But Lex Luthor's a little bit too, he uses his brain, doesn't he? Here's some images of Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor is like the brain. And that's kind of like what Klaus Schwab is. You know, he's outsmarting everybody. He's got the World Economic Forum. You know, he's grooming these world leaders from childhood across both sides of the aisle, which should be a huge clue to anybody who's listening that this is what's going on. But I think that he's also channeling a different character as well. This is Mr. Freeze. Now, why would Klaus Schwab be Mr. Freeze? Well, the whole basis of why he wants to change the world is because of climate change, right? He wants to cool down the planet. So he's kind of like Mr. Freeze. Now, Lex Luthor could also be like Jared Kushner, I think, as well. Lex Luthor could be Jared Kushner. Same thing. The brain behind it all. The arch nemesis. And remember, in the Batman franchise, Lex Luthor came across as someone who wasn't doing anything wrong on the surface, but he was secretly battling Batman. And he seemed to have public support at times during the Batman antics, didn't he? Now let's go back to Schwab. Because Schwab could also be Clayface. Who's Clayface? Well, Clayface is another one of Batman's nemesises. Let me see if did I pull that up? I don't think I have that. Well, let's type it in here. Clayface. Let's put it in. His face looks a little bit more like Klaus Schwab, I think. That droopy, bald face looking thing. Here's an image of him here. Clayface. It's Klaus Schwab. Now, what else do we have here? So, let's get back to Mr. Freeze. I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but my tabs are a little bit mixed up here. I want you to look at this clip from Batman's nemesis, Mr. Freeze. Remember, cooling down the planet from global warming. Listen to the accent here.
This is how I'll always remember you.
What? That sounds just like Klaus Schwab, right?
Surrounded by winter, forever young, forever beautiful.
You will own nothing and you will be happy.
Rest well, my love. The monster who took you from me will
We need to cool down the planet with the global warming.
soon learn that revenge is a dish best served cold.
Mr. Freeze. Creepy, right? Wow. So I'm curious to see what you guys came up with in terms of who you think some of these people, what comic book characters they are. Now, in the beginning, I was thinking maybe Catwoman was AOC. I was like, maybe she's Catwoman. But then I was like, no, it has to be Melania. So again, there are no wrong answers here. Some of you agree with the Clayface. Unbelievable. Let's let this catch up. Now, tomorrow's show is going to be off the rails because I found the root meaning of the name Connor. Now remember, Connor was the name of September in the Fringe series, as well as Connor McLeod, the Highlander. And the meaning of Connor confirms that Trump is the Highlander. Now, how can I say that with such confidence? Well, that's because the name Connor means Con Jabbar. Con Jab. I'm not making this up, you guys. That's going to be tomorrow's show. We're going to look at it in Wikipedia. Remember the Gom Jabbar from Dune? And it meant force God's medicine. That Dune series was all about Trump as well. Remember the sooty Jabbar Scottish prophecy? It was always about the jab. We're going to cover that tomorrow, along with some other strange stories about ghost ships that appeared at the bottom of lakes that shouldn't be there. 2 separate lakes, almost 1,000 miles from each other, with the same exact ghost ship at the bottom of the lake. A World War II ship that shouldn't be there. We're going to talk about lakes as portals on tomorrow's show as well. Now let's go in here and we're going to finish the show with whatever you guys came up with as to who you think some of these comic characters are. I can't see you guys that very good. Okay, that's better. All right, there we go. All right, thanks everybody for showing up to the show this morning. Connor and Terminator. Yes, Connor in Terminator. It's all about time travel. I've got to show you this. This is crazy. I'm going to give you a sneak peek to tomorrow's show. I'm going to show you the name Connor, if I can find it here. Dun 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 dun. Vlad the Impaler. Oh, geez, what did I do with that? That's probably not showing because I have too many tabs pulled up. Connor name. I'll pull it up here. Here we go. You're not going to believe. I have to show you this because people aren't going to believe it. Connor comes from Con Jabbar. And it means lover of wolves. But the Jabbar is also the jab. And it appears, as I just mentioned earlier, in terms of the ancient Scottish prophecy and the Gon Jabbar, which is the needle that she poked into the Atreides' neck, the Prince Atreides. So definitely be looking at that tomorrow. Okay, I'm back on the chat now, I promise. Promise. All right, thumbs up the video if you haven't already. It tells the algorithms that the video is good so that more people see the video. So we should always thumbs up the videos if you generally agree with what's going on and you want this information to be heard by more people. All right, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, yes. Okay. Gaelic. Yes, Trump is the actual Apollo of the time travel. But again, I don't believe in real time travel. I believe that they're just demons possessing host bodies down through time. And that's their version of time travel. They can't really go backwards. They can only go forward through time. Lover of wolves. Connor McLeod, Clan McLeod. McLeod was Trump's mother's maiden name. From Scotland. Talk about all that tomorrow. All right. The wolf is the mother of Rome. Yes, thanks, Pseudonoid. which was the Gemini twins. I want to say Beavis and Butthead, but it's not that. It's, gosh, there's so much to keep straight, right? It can drive you mad sometimes. They were suckled by she-wolves. They were Gemini twins. Somebody knows that off the top of your head. Connie Chung. Yes, I do listen to you guys, Rachel. Amen to that. A lot of breadcrumbs. Romulus and Remus, thank you, Dave. Those are the two twins suckled by she-wolves. R and R. The origins of Rome. All roads lead to Rome. Adam versus Cain. Now, what does this mean for our future? Well, there's no need for fear, because knowing all this means that the Bible is very real, and all the promises made in the Bible are very real. That we have salvation through Christ. And as I explained earlier in the video, Christ must miraculously present himself to each and every soul in order to be fair about the gospel and learning about him and knowing him throughout a person's lifetime. I hear the argument from people saying, oh, well, how can you say Jesus is the only true, or God is the only true God, and we're supposed to believe in his son when most people don't even have a Bible? Well, I explained that earlier in the show, that there must be a miraculous revelation. How else would Jesus require that to come to him? Now, I've seen this at certain points in my life. My former stepson, who had never stepped foot into a church, did not know who Jesus was, would say that Jesus talked to him. He knew his name and everything at like 3 years old. Jesus reveals himself. My sheep hear my name. He makes that promise. Hear my voice, I'm sorry. So, all right, you guys, it was kind of a long show. A lot of information. So I'm going to get ready for tomorrow's show. Thank you guys for showing up. And we'll see you tomorrow with ghost ships and the root word, the root meaning of the name Connor, meaning the jab. Take care and be safe, you guys. Much love.